My next guest, his name is Yishay Ish Ron, and he is a former IDF soldier who wrote a book. And he talks about his dog and this process and this journey of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. It's something that so many of our brave men and women who serve in the military, whether it's in Australia, in America, or in Israel, fighting against a horrific enemy, often when they come home, that's when the real battle begins. And that's saying something given what they see out there in the battlefield and what they face. So I think we need to be really conscious of the fact that a lot of our brave heroes come home and we say, oh, he survived, that's amazing. But then the suffering really, really starts. So this is a quick conversation, but I think it's a really, really important one. Ishi, thank you so very much for joining me on the Erin Molan show, and far more importantly, for your service, not just to your nation of Israel, but to the entire West, all the people who believe in peace, freedom, democracy, and all the things that really matter. I genuinely say thank you.
Well, thank you, Erin. I'm grateful to be in your show and to put some, important issue of PTSD and mental health issues in general, but PTSD among veterans, which is an epidemic worldwide, and especially I know it from Israel. In Israel, since the 7th of October war started, more than 70 soldiers ended their own life due to PTSD, and we could have prevented it as a society if we could have looked at them and give them the help they need. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to speak with you.
You don't have to thank me at all. It's a privilege to give you a voice and a bigger voice. And thank you for using your voice. It's a very difficult space. In Australia, we've had very similar issues. You mentioned globally. And my dad, as you probably know, was in the army for many, many years. And I am very involved with a lot of veteran organizations, and particularly mental health and PTSD. It is such a big issue. For a lot of people, they go to war, but the really tough battle actually begins when they get home. And it's up there, and it steals so many lives. It really does. Tell me your story before we get into what you decided to do to, first of all, help yourself cope, but secondly, to help others feel less alone in this space.
So I served in a special unit in the West Bank. I accidentally, in an operation, I shot my friend, which is alive, but he got injured. It was a very traumatic incident for me. And also through my service, I've seen and done some stuff that usually people don't see in their daily life. And but as a man, we are all very, we see ourselves as very strong, and we cannot admit our weaknesses, and this is PTSD most vulnerable point, because usually people are very afraid to admit first to themselves and then second to other people and society that they suffer from mental illness or mental injury, and especially service people, in the army, because they see their whole team is continuing with their life and you are suddenly suffering from a lot of stations of PTSD, and you just don't admit it to yourself. And I'm saying a lot of time that PTSD, it's like colon cancer. Many guys are ashamed to be tested, and then they lose their life to cancer. And it's the same with PTSD. You're ashamed that you grasp yourself as weak, although of course it's not true. And
yeah.
Injury like any other injury, and then you just suffer so much that you sometimes prefer to die than to continue coping with the disease or with this injury. And for me, for many years, I was just medicated myself with drugs and alcohol from the minute I woke up until I went to sleep. And I did suffer
Can you explain to us, and sorry to interrupt, Ishi, but what does that look like? So you wake up and what do you take? Is it alcohol in the morning? Is it painkillers? Is it recreational?
For me, it was usually drugs like grass, like marijuana.
Yeah.
Or alcohol. And it started with recreational, with friends. And then when I felt that I need to be more secluded from reality, so it became more and more, not stronger drugs, but stronger use, until I was stoned 24 hours a day, like all the time. It lasted for a few years, but then I started to suffer The PTSD penetrated this shield of drugs, and I started to feel anxiety and panic attacks. And my wife told me, "Listen, you scream at night, you beat me up from your sleep. Go check yourself, your PTSD." And still, I
Wow.
denied what I'm suffering from. Still,
Yeah.
I denied that I'm PTSD and that it's from the army. And it continued with just trying to cope with it. Then I quit doing drugs and I started to medicate with the psychiatric medication, but I denied that it's from my service until COVID started and we were secluded in our homes. And then my
Yeah.
team from the army gathered at first at WhatsApp group, and then in a reality we had a meeting, and I met the
Yeah.
guy I shot, and I met some people. We talked about what happened in the service, and then we even remember that we were drinking already during the service. And just imagine, sometimes we went to operation when we had when we not totally drunk, but that we had a couple of shots, and I went home and I was ill, sick for a few days, totally, and then I collapsed. Like I didn't eat, I didn't sleep. I had anxiety attacks and panic attacks that lasted for days and weeks. And only then I understood and told myself and my family that it's PTSD from the army. And only then I sued the defense ministry and got my handicapped status and started to get treatment. And actually it really helped, because I think that the acknowledgement of the system is so much important, not only by giving you some kind of, terms that you can, that if you collapse again or something, you will have economic needs to support your family, but also I think when the system acknowledge, you get some kind of relief as a soldier, as someone that
Absolutely.
it's so much important. And then because I was already deep inside my sickness and my situation, I couldn't much work in my business, and I started to work on my book, Dog, which is actually telling the story of a Golani officer serving in pillars of defense in Gaza, and he returns home, and suddenly Gaza comes into Tel Aviv for him, and he collapses and he loses everything. He loses his family, he loses his job, and he's starting to use drugs, which became much harder and harder. And then he started to shoot heroin, which is, by the way, not uncommon for PTSD survivors all over
Wow.
the.
So heroin.
Yeah, you can see them in the streets.
Wow.
In the streets of the big cities in the US. You can read about it in Vietnam veterans. Many of
Yeah.
them found themselves living in the street, drug addict, and it's happening even today. I really think about it. When you go on the street with your car in the big cities and people are coming begging for money, they didn't choose to be in this weak place
I
in society.
agree.
Prostitution is not something that people choose to do or women choose to practice. It's something that some kind of a PTSD or some kind of trauma bring them to this place, and we usually try to close our windows to and sometimes call the police on them instead of calling social services to help them. You have in Judaism these terms that called tikkun olam. You probably heard about it. It's
Mm.
the term that says that if you do a small deed in society, like give a smile to someone or give a hand to someone that needs or give some money. So if all of us were doing it, the world would be a better place. Okay, tikkun olam,
I
it's
agree.
repairing the world. If we think rationally they didn't choose this place, we understand that they are there for a reason, and this reason put them in this sweet place of society.
But you're speaking so beautifully and eloquently about it. And I want to ask you, do the IDF and those who are in positions of power take it more seriously now, do you think, than maybe they did when you were at the peak of your suffering? Have you seen an acknowledgement and an awareness of this in a better way?
I think that today in the IDF and in the government and in society, which is, I think, the most important thing, people understand, especially to the war in the past 2 years, that PTSD is a major, major injury. You know, they checked it statistically and they showed that PTSD handicapped in the IDF live 5 years less than any other handicapped injury
Wow.
in the IDF. It's amazing. Like you take all the injuries, head trauma, body
Yeah.
trauma, and still PTSD live 5 years less. So today, society accept PTSD much, much more, much better. You know,
Yeah.
instead of weakness, I think that now people grasping it as heroes, and it's something that is so important for us, for people that for that gave that served in not only in combat units. By the way, Irene, it's amazing. I met
Yeah.
when Log came out in Israel, and it became like a cult book for PTSD for veterans and for others. And people came to my house to for signature on the book, and they started telling me on their stories. So of course I had a lot of veterans, and you know, from a pilot that was PTSD because he crashed and someone in his chopper got killed, to you know, many officers and parents that were wanted to talk about their children. But I also had people that told me my PTSD is actual from sexual assault when I was a kid. It's amazing. I had a special unit officer come to my house and we spoke, and he had tears in his eyes, and he was saying, my PTSD is not from the army. It's when I was molested as a kid. So
Mm.
it's so common in society.
It is. And I've got to say, Isha, I spoke at a Friends of the IDF event in Los Angeles last week, and this incredible young man who had almost died and suffered the most insane trauma gets up on stage in front of, I think, 1,000 people and talks about his physical injuries, and then also talked about his PTSD like it was just another extension of his legs that were crushed and his hip and his. And I sat to the side of the stage because I just introduced him, and I went, isn't that amazing that we're now just accepting it? He wasn't ashamed. He was a young man in his mid-20s. There was no shame. He spoke openly about it like it was any other legitimate injury, which it is.
And we should continue talking about it. And
Yes.
this is why it is so important, because, you know, we say and we think that, okay, so it's now so common and people talk about it, but still think about those 6,000 veterans killing themselves in the US every year,
Yeah.
or 70 Israeli soldiers or more that already took their own life since October 7th. And they did it just because they couldn't cope, and they didn't find any hope for redemption and for
And they felt
resilience.
alone.
They
And I
felt
think that the
alone.
key part of your story, and we're just closing up on time here, but the key part of your story, I feel like it shows them A, that they're not alone because they're looking at someone who was in a combat force and who suffered immense trauma and is openly talking about it and writing books about it. And secondly, just via example, you can show that you can reach rock bottom like you did with substance abuse, drugs, alcohol, to the extent where you probably came close to losing your family and people you love and so many around you. But you came back from that to where you are now. So by example, you're showing them you can heal. Maybe never fully, maybe that's impossible. I think if anyone who's been through trauma, I know myself, I don't think you ever fully heal, but you can get to a place where you find joy in every day and you can function. Is that your experience?
I think that my experience is healing through my art and through my writing, which is
Yeah.
I wrote many years, and I had a lot of novels ready. Some, you know, were published, and now I'm trying to break through to my international career as a writer. So, you know, doing something which is like a mission, or dealing with art and writing, of course, gives you much more hope. But I can tell you that there
And
are
purpose.
and
Purpose is
purpose.
key.
Exactly,
That's key.
exactly. I think that so many are not like me, or, you know, the everyday life of a PTSD, if he cannot find the company and the hobbies You know, some like there are groups for diving together or cycling together, doing sport, going to travel. But you know, so many still feel alone. So many cannot get out of home. And it is our mission as a society to lend them a hand, to give them a hand and tell and
Yes.
help them.
Ishi, how can people find your book, Dog? Which, I mean, it clearly will be a story that is in probably some ways hard to read in terms of trauma, but also I'm imagining it's also uplifting and inspiring as well.
Yes, so you can buy it all over in Amazon, and in Australia you can get it in I think Utopia book,
Fantastic. You
but you
are
can get it
global. You're already global.
only in the English-speaking world. But I'm hoping to be translated and to do more.
I cannot wait to read your book. The second I get offline, I'm going to go to Amazon and I'm going to buy it. And I cannot wait
I
to
can
read your
send it
next
to
book.
you. I
No,
can send it to you.
I want to buy it and support you, which is what I will
Thank
do,
you.
because that is the right thing to do. And I'm very grateful for your generosity, but you have earned that support. So thank you. And I hope my viewers and my listeners do exactly the same thing.
Thank you. Like,
Bless you. Thank you for
thank
speaking
you
in this
so
space.
much. Irene, you're amazing and you do amazing work and I'm following you. You're a great Zionist and it's
Bless
amazing what
you.
you did after 7th of October. And I wish I could hug you, but we are far. So
I will hug
okay.
you in Melbourne. I'm a big hugger, except my problem is, Ishi, I keep hugging rabbis because I can't tell the difference. So I need to get better. You're amazing. Thank you for everything you do. For anyone listening or watching who is struggling with PTSD or maybe doesn't quite realize what it is, reach out. People care deeply. Google, there are so many organizations that will help you and get you the help that you deserve. Thank you,
And
Ishi,
they
again.
can also send me questions, and I'm always
Amazing.
happy to reply and to support. And you
You've
know,
got a
they follow.
website.
I have a website. I'm active on social media, and I have many people that write to me, and I try really hard to reply all of them. So,
You're
you know,
amazing.
thank you so much. You're
Thank you,
great.
sir.
Take care.
Ladies and gentlemen, that almost wraps up the Erin Molan show for today. I've got some fan feedback for you, and this is off the back of some of my thoughts following the mass murder of innocent Jewish people and others in Bondi. Just over a day or so ago now. I want to thank you for so many incredible messages, so much support. This community is feeling the love, and not just from the global Jewish community, but from all over. So thank you. Marshall says, and I'm just reading these blind, I just pick out a selection of comments and feedback from the YouTube show at this stage. This is the first time I've listened to you, and I'm so glad to hear your voice and your perspective on this. You are so right in all that you say. I'm an American, and ever since October 7th, I've had a totally different fear level than ever before. And yesterday, when I commented to my kids about this attack, I said that the worst thing about it is that I was not in the least surprised. As you said, that in of itself is a terrible thing to accept, as real as it is. Absolutely spot on. Fran, new subscriber, loving your content. Thank you so much. If you're not subscribed, make sure you join Fran. Fran has great taste. Mystic Raccoon. See, when I see names like that, I think, oh, there's a sledge coming. But no, thank you so much for this powerful message. I've shared it on all my social media, given the thumbs up to the video. Have a blessed Christmas. Stay safe. Thank you so much, lovely. YN says, thank you so much for your wise and touching words. Thank you for making this very difficult video, Scarlett says. You tell the truth. It makes you a beautiful human. Thank you so much. Howard says, thank you for drawing a line in the sand and calling evil exactly what it is, evil. I've only recently found you. I live in Texas and don't do social media due to the amount of time I waste scrolling it. I can relate to that. We appreciate what you do when someone stands up for good against evil. Bless you. Thank you so much for, I don't think it's quite social media, YouTube. I know it's included in that in Australia's recent ban. I want to talk about that, by the way, at some stage. Beryl says, you're a beacon of light. Thank you so much. Guys, you are phenomenal. This feedback, honestly, it just means so, so much, given some of the other challenges that come with speaking publicly in this space and standing up for what is right and not bowing to the mob. So please keep it coming. You're amazing. I'm so grateful for it. For those who are just new to this channel, we do get mean things as well said to me, sometimes about my appearance, just sometimes about me generally. And I do share those because often they're quite entertaining. So I promise you, we've just had an influx of really lovely, good comments. I'm not encouraging you to send bad comments, but I promise when they come, I won't filter them out. I will bring them to you as well. So you get a nice, mixed, realistic response to what you're watching. I love you all. Thank you so much. Big show tomorrow, 6 a.m. ET. Make sure you tune in, share everything, follow, subscribe, comment, yada, yada, yada. Love you all. Take care. Stay safe. Stay safe. Bye.